What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What's your problem? What are you doing? What is going on, everybody? People's on the internet. This is Havana SS. Guaranteed 1 or less videos per week, more or less. And today is that time again. Gonna give her a nice wash. She's looking a little dirty, a little bit of dust here and there, but you know what? That's too much for me, which is why we have too much of this. Oh my god! Phew, alright. That was easy. Nice and foamy, nice and soapy, nice and wetty. Now it's time for the hard part. And check it out, guys, finally it's done. Look at her. Armor all wax and shine with soap in it. Jesus, look at that. I even washed the wheels too. I washed the wheels first, then I washed the body. Just dried her off. Man, I mean, look at the front of that thing. Beautiful. Beautiful shape. Took care of the paint as much as I could. I mean, get you some side shots here. God damn. Look at that, beautiful. Alright. Done with the car wash. Let's get back into the video. Whew. Glad that's over with. Yeah, if you really love your car, washing it in 96 degrees outside, whew. That is some work, man. But if you really love your car, you always want to make it look shine, always want to make it look good. Always got to go through stuff. Always. Now in today's video, this video is basically for the people who just found out about the Chevrolet Cobalt and they're thinking about buying one. Or they already previously knew about the Chevrolet Cobalt but didn't think about buying one until now on the used market. They're a pretty good deal for what you're getting, despite what other people say due to the recalls and all the problems that other people had with it. Personally, I didn't have that much problems or any serious problems with it. So today we're going to go over 4 categories that I'm going to explain with the Chevrolet Cobalt. The first thing is going to be the trim levels. The second one is going to be the engines. The third one is going to be the transmissions that were available for it, the second one is going to be the engines and the transmissions that were available for it, and the third one is going to be the body styles that you could get it with, and 4 is going to be the long-term outlook if you purchase one of these vehicles, which I have, and it hasn't failed me a bunch of times. It has not failed me, but you know, problems here and there is going to be with every single car that you get. I'm just going to say overall my experience was good, but if you want to find out more, just wait till the end of the video. So this is just going to explain for the people who don't know and are like, what is a Chevrolet Cobalt? Like, what is that car? Basically, a Chevrolet Cobalt is GM's compact car that was manufactured from 2005 all the way to 2010. It was based on the GM Delta platform, which is actually still in use today, or at least in name, for the new Chevrolet Cruze. The Delta platform was used in other vehicles also, most notably the Saturn Ion, which was built side by side with the Chevrolet Cobalt. It was basically the same car with minor differences. Just going off a little bit with the Saturn Ion here, the differences. The Saturn Ion had its gauge cluster in the center, while the Cobalt had its gauge cluster in the middle, you know, where normally gauge clusters are supposed to be. The Saturn Ion had a quad coupe doors, kind of like a Mazda RX-8, while the Cobalt is more of a traditional styled car. But this video isn't about the Saturn Ion. I'm thinking about maybe doing one later, but right now I'm just going to talk about the Chevrolet Cobalt and basically some basic information that you need to know about it if you want to consider getting one of these cars and which one might resonate with you the most. But as promised, I'm going to get into the video telling you about the Chevrolet Cobalt right now. First off, we're going to start with the trim levels. So the Chevrolet Cobalt had a bunch of trim levels that you could choose from. They started with the base all the way up to the SS in 2010. So the trim levels basically were base, which was turned into the LS trim, the LT trim, the LTZ trim, Cobalt Sport, which was the later. Before that, it was called the SS, just a normal SS. And then there's the Cobalt SS Supercharged, which is what I have right now. And later on, 2009, 2010, there was simply a version called the SS, but this wasn't the same as the SS before it was introduced. What separates these trim levels is a bunch of different options, but now getting into the engine section, I can give you some sort of the differences. So the base to the LTZ trims, which is basically like the first 4 trims, ran with a 2.2 liter L61 Ecotec 4-cylinder engine. I believe the later models also had a 2.2 liter Ecotec engine as well, but this one had a different name. I'm not quite sure of the name. I think it was LAKEY. These engines produced 145 horsepower when they first came out, and then they produced 155 horsepower in the later years like 2009 and 2010. As expected with an American car, it's got a buttload of torque too. The torque level before was actually higher at 155 foot-pounds of torque, and in 2009-2010 the torque dropped slightly as the horsepower increased to 150 foot-pounds. A step up from that, in the Cobalt SS and the Sport models, they came with a 2.4 liter Ecotec LE5 engine. This engine was also used in the Saturn Sky naturally aspirated and the high trim HHR, producing 171 horsepower. With again a pretty respectable number for today, 166 foot-pounds of torque, which is basically kind of like the base level compact cars today, so it can definitely still hang in terms of performance. So stepping up from that, now you have entered the high performance realm of the Chevrolet Cobalt models, starting with the 2 liter Ecotec LSJ 4-cylinder engine. This engine is actually based on a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine on some Saab models, which is codenamed the LDK. The Chevrolet Cobalt has generally the same engine, but has a few things changed to it, I believe on the internal side. And instead of a turbocharger, it now uses a supercharger. Output is 205 horsepower to the wheels and 200 foot-pounds of torque on the engine. Definitely still great numbers today. Still can hang with sport compacts even today, but they are getting on the light side comparing it to the Focus ST and even to the SRT4. At that time it was making more power than that, but that is the supercharged motor. Now stepping up from that, we get to the 2 liter 4-cylinder engine, but this time it has a turbocharger. This also has direct injection and variable valve timing. It was called the LNF. This output is insane, 260 horsepower and 260 foot-pounds of torque. So this is the king of the hill when it comes to Cobalt engines, and it is a very, very good engine. It was modern at the time it came out for GM, and it was definitely one of the better engines that they had, at least in their recent history. The Cobalts with the base 2.2 liter engine did a 0 to 60 sprint in 8 seconds. The Cobalt SS Supercharged did the 0 to 60 sprint in 6.1 seconds. And the Turbo Engine LNF did a 0 to 60 sprint in 5.7 seconds. So it is definitely a lot faster than people give it credit for. And now with the transmissions, you can get all of them with either a 5-speed manual, but the 4 trims and the Sport came with a 4-speed automatic transmission. It is very outdated even today. The 5-speed manual transmission was a Saab transmission. It's called the Saab F35 transmission. It is a 5-speed manual transmission, and it is a very well unit. Shifts are good, the gates are fine. It is a little notchy and it is a little hard to shift, but once you put in the effort, it is silky smooth. As for the body styles, I mean, there isn't really that much to talk about here. It either comes with a coupe or a sedan. There was no convertible option like there was on the Cavalier. So if you're looking for a convertible coupe, unfortunately you're not going to find it here with the Chevrolet Cobalt. You're either going to have to go to the Saturn Sky. But the Chevrolet Cobalt came in either a coupe or a sedan. The SS Supercharged model came standard with the high-rise wing, which is what that is right there. The SS Turbo model came standard with the low-level spoiler, and so did the regular SS naturally aspirated / Cobalt Sport model. As for the long-term outlook of the Chevrolet Cobalt, I can speak for my Cobalt right here, the 2.0 liter supercharged engine version. It has definitely given me some problems, I will not doubt that, but just like every other car has their problems, it isn't like one of those rare cars that just keeps breaking down on you every month, every time you turn on the key. This car has actually been extremely reliable, and it quite surprised me. I reached 170,000 miles. I didn't have to do too much repairs to it. It was actually pretty lightweight. I'm just coming up with an oil change soon, and it has definitely been rock solid. Really nothing wrong with it. The only gripe I have is the interior plastics are cheap, but it does not look bad. And it really doesn't feel that bad unless you start putting pressure on it. Then yeah, you will notice that there is plastic. You will notice that it is cheap, but unless you're really pressing on it, or unless you're making the car shake like crazy, it really won't bother you, and it looks really nice. And not to mention, there is a huge aftermarket for this car also. It really doesn't matter if you have the standard 2.2 liter engine models, the supercharged or the turbocharged engine models. I'm gonna throw in a website here, ZZ Performance, you can look them up. They have all the parts that you need for your Cobalt. And this, I'm definitely not sponsored by them, this is just me from personal research. They have turbocharger kits, supercharger kits, pretty much anything to make your Cobalt into either a track monster, a performance go-getter, or if you just want to make it more comfortable and improve it. I mean, the aftermarket is huge for these things. And given the span of 5 years, it definitely has an impressive support. Not as much support as the Civic or the Impreza or the Corolla, but it definitely is out there, even though not many people consider it. And that's one thing too, if you're gonna buy one of these cars. The parts are good, you could find the parts anywhere, but people just don't drive, especially the top level versions of these cars. You never see another SS model on the road, an SS supercharged or SS turbocharged especially. You always see the base sedan and coupe versions, which doesn't make it less of a car. They are really nice cars, but if you're considering buying a supercharged model or a turbocharged model, just keep in mind that it is not going to be that common on the road. So it definitely, at least in my experience, when I drive by, there are a few people wanting to catch a glimpse of me. There are a few people that are looking at me like, what is that? What is that thing? And when they see the Cobalt on the side, then yeah, they know it's a Cobalt. They just haven't seen this transformed version of the Cobalt. So this version of the Cobalt is especially rare, even though it was pretty big. Not many people drive these types of Cobalts around. Most people drive the base or the first 4 trim level Cobalts instead of the high trim Cobalts. Not to mention, Cobalts will basically have any color that you're looking for. They have white, black, beige, red, yellow, orange, blue. Especially on the supercharged model, the color on the outside can match the inside. So for example, if you've seen my other videos about my car, I have the Victory Red on the outside and the red and the black stitching on the inside too. It can be the same thing, laser blue outside, laser blue inside with black inserts, kind of like the Saab 9.3 Viggen back in the day. And you could do that with yellow also. Orange you couldn't, but black you definitely can. I would recommend personally getting a black Cobalt with Recaro seats, which is an option. It was the G85 performance package. They offered that when it was brand new, the Cobalt. It came with the LSD and Recaro seats, black seats. So if you can find at least the Recaro seats with a black Cobalt, it is a steal. You really need to get those. So I'm just gonna do a brief summary for people who kind of lost me in the video. I apologize. Chevrolet Cobalt, compact car by GM from 2005 to 2010. Available as a sedan or a coupe. 2.2 liter base engine up to a 2.4 liter up to a 2.4 liter Ecotec performance engine, up to a 2 liter Ecotec LSJ supercharged engine, and then finally a turbocharged engine. And the rest is history. So if you're generally considering buying one of the Cobalts, you will definitely have a good time with them. I have definitely had a good time with them. Bought mines with 123,000 miles all the way to 170,000 miles. I don't regret making that decision any bit. It burns, well, at least the high premium required level models, they do sip quite a bit of gas, but that gas is offset by how much fun you have once you're driving one of these things. They look amazing, they sound amazing, they're pretty reliable. Overall, they handle great. That's just not saying for the high level models. Also, the base level models are great cars too. So in my book, personally, I'd recommend them. That and the Saturn Island, which I will get to in another video. So thank you guys for sticking with me for this long, talking about the Chevrolet Cobalt. And if you want to get it, definitely hope this video helped out. And I'll see you guys in the next video. This is Havana SS signing out.
Who you know fresher than whole? Riddle me that. The rest of y'all know where I'm lurking. Yeah, can't none of y'all mirror me.